Let's play my collection of NASA's fakery one by one.
Why do we travel so fast? Um, we stay in space because we're going fast. We're going around the moon, or I'm sorry, we're going around the world like the moon goes around the world. And let me explain it like this. If you went outside of the museum that you're in on the roof and jumped off the roof, gravity would pull you right down and you'd get hurt. If you ran right across the roof really fast, run, all the way across the roof and jumped off, you'd go quite a ways, but you'd still fall and hit the ground. Well, imagine if you could go across that roof so fast, that you, as you fell, as you came off the roof, the earth curved underneath you, so that you were falling, but you were going so fast that the earth was curving away from you, so you never actually hit the ground. You just kept falling, and the earth kept curving. You have to go really fast, 8 kilometers a second, 28,000 kilometers an hour. But if you can get yourself going 500 kilometers a minute, then you will be weightless because you'll fall at exactly the same speed that the Earth curves. And that's why the space station has to go so fast to stay in orbit and to stay weightless.
Go to the moon? What are you talking about? But the more and more I've learned that, video can be faked, I can fake video on my computer. I don't do that sort of thing because I just don't have time for it. But you look at some of these images that you and others will share about this right here, and you're just like, how did I not see it?
Look
How
at
did
this
I not
thing.
see that?
Look
That's
at
like
this thing.
toilet paper tube and shit.
If I showed you this, excuse me.
I actually took a good hard look at that maybe a couple of weeks ago. I think Matt was telling me about this.
We were at Kara's, and Kara was showing us.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And because I've never really scrutinized it, and when I looked at it, I was like, "Get that camera."
Today-
I looked at it, I was like, "That is fucking nuts."
This is like a paper mache tape, scotch tape. I mean, if you actually get a good picture and zoom in, okay, look at this leg. Wouldn't all the legs kind of be the same? You look at this one's got tinfoil and tape, and it's got things here. But then you compare it to the other leg, it's different, right? And then if you compare it to another leg, completely different. It's like they ran out of art supplies, right? Look at this. Eric DeBay says it really well. He says if a sheetrocker sheetrocked your house like this, you'd be entitled to a full refund. Okay,
Right,
but this
yeah.
is a technological, marvel, right? Absolute, complete, and total insanity. This is the LEM that they landed on the moon. This thing fell at 4,000 miles an hour, right? Never tested on Earth, and all of a sudden the rocket stopped it and landed it without kicking up any dust. Okay, it was a 10,000 pound engine, thrust engine. Okay, right, and the thruster, the jet part is down here. Okay,
Right.
it's down here. So this is when it left, and I guess they left some guy on the moon filming it because it pans up. But watch, it leaves the rocket part down here. How the heck is it going up? Did it just have an explosion that sent them up? Like if I put an M80 underneath a rock and it exploded and the rock would just float away? Where's the thruster?
Right.
Okay. By the way, in there, 2 grown men, car, golf clubs, all sorts of stuff. Okay? Nonsense. Right? The car. They pulled the car out of here. Golf clubs, everything. Right? The thruster's
Yeah.
down here. The thruster's down here. Right? And then these guys aren't even in chairs. They're in this thing. Right? You ever been in a boat in calm water on
Dude,
you're in a small boat, and if you move your position, the boat moves. Right? How's this thing just floating up? Like, what if the guy moves over or sneezes? What the thing's gonna cartwheel? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and this thing went up to meet up with the lunar orbiter, and then somehow they injected some matter. I don't know where to keep the mass to get out of the lunar orbit and fall back to Earth faster than they got there.
And just for my clarification, what we are looking at right now is actual claim what actual footage of the lunar module, NASA's footage of the lunar
This is
module.
NASA's
departing from-
module. So let me ask you a question. They got a camera that pans up, and zooms back. Okay, they got the 1960s auto zooming technology. How did they get the film back to Earth? They Wi-Fi it? We can't even. When Felix Baumgartner did the Red Bull jump, he went to 127,000 feet. They lost communications with him at 127,000 feet. Okay, how the heck did they talk to the moon? How the heck did the camera pan? Okay, absolute insanity, right? And check this out. Watch this, guy. Wait, hold on. Let me just go back. If you're on the moon, the only source of light is the sun. So here's this guy's shadow. It's going over here. Where's the sun? It's over here because you can see he's lit up from this side. Now watch carefully. Watch carefully. The sun's behind him, right? And we're just panning to the right, panning to the right, panning to the right. Wait, where is he? Oh, there he is. And look, so there's the shadow. It's over there, right?
Right.
It seems like the sun came around a little bit. But let's go. He goes farther, panning to the right, panning to the right, panning to the right. Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Oh,
whoa. How did the sun get over there?
what?
Thank you. We didn't go to the moon. Nonsense. They,
Thing.
in
The
the words
shadow
of,
is in the.
in the words of Joe Rogan, there's no way we went to the moon until he got $100 million coin. And let me tell you something. When you're at altitude on an airplane, you're not in a vacuum of space, but the air pressure is slightly lower, literally slightly lower. So I want you to get a water bottle, half full or whatever, and seal it up while you're on the ground. And when you get to altitude, open it. What's going to happen? It's going to expand, right?
Expand.
And go Google on YouTube vacuum chamber, and they watch. They put soda cans in there, and they suck all the air out. The can explodes.
Yeah. And conversely, if you open it and then close it when you land,
It crunches.
contracts.
Right.
Right.
How come when these guys go into space, they don't explode like the Michelin State Puff Marshmallow Man? Right? How come
Right.
when these guys are out here? Oh,
These questions I think are just rhetorical.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but
every
there's a-
question's
there's-
rhetorical. Every question's
I mean,
rhetorical.
in that case, I would say, well, there is skin and tissue that's holding us all together. In that case, there's an actual membrane. Call our skin and bodies membranes. That is,
Do you know NASA put a astronaut in a suit in a vacuum chamber once, and before they got all the air out of it, the liquid in his mouth started boiling, and he passed out, and they almost lost him. They had to depressurize it so fast to go in there and get him. Right? How come they don't have guys running around in vacuum chambers? Right? This in the 1960s, these batteries and all this stuff. This can handle 250 degrees Fahrenheit and negative 250 degrees. Okay, all within minutes or an hour of each other. And I say, put an astronaut in here in the middle of summer. Put him out in the desert in Death Valley. Okay, for an hour and see if he's still alive. Okay, there's no way. There's no way, right? And also, look at this thing. Look at it's a snowboarding suit, for Christ's sake. Okay, it would explode. You say membranes? That's just a word, right?
Oh, you've changed your image to the moon. And
Oh, sorry. This is what I'm showing you.
there we go.
This is what I'm showing you. Sorry about that. There's this would explode. Look at this. This is like a snowboarding suit. Okay.
I actually can't see it. Can you? Because never mind. Not a big deal.
If you go on yours and click in the upper right hand corner, click speaker view, or just click on mine and just pin me. If you click on my window on the three dots and say absolute nonsense, right? You would explode. It just show me a vacuum chamber, put something in there that has air in it, that's soft, like one of their suits, And again, this is the Artemis guys. Look at their boots. These are I have these same boots. Okay, these are space boots.
Right.
That's actually the first thing that brought into question the whole space thing for me was, or the idea that we haven't been to space or walked on the moon, was the mistake that they made by showing the footprints on the moon, the supposed footprints on the moon, and then Neil Armstrong's supposed spacesuit in
the moon from the Luna 16, Luna 20, and Luna 24 stations.
They brought back to Earth samples of lunar soil. This is how it is done.
Excuseer, dames en heren.
When the automatic station lands on the surface, the drill rod assumes a vertical position. A special drill takes samples of the lunar soil. The automatic stations delivered samples of soil from different parts of the moon.
Ja, ik vind dus dat dit echt niet kan hoor. Ik bedoel, meneer.
Let's talk about this, because this is fascinating. I remember very clearly, I think anybody who was alive at the time does, I remember my parents waking me up and we went down and we watched you guys land on the moon.
No,
which
you
was
didn't. No, you didn't.
What?
Because there wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation. So you associated what you saw with...
I have very hazy memories.
I know.
Okay?
So that's the legal name, Pat.
Now, you know, I don't. It's fine. He wants to. I don't have a problem if he does it, but the honesty of it would greatly diminish what I think people thought he was actually doing. And not only that, they made sure to photograph him standing there with a really wide-angle lens, which curves horizontal lines. Right. So in the photo, you see this curvature of Earth's surface, and he said, "Wow, he's in space. Look at that." No, he's not. At that height, you don't see the curvature of the Earth if you are 2 millimeters above this beach ball. You just don't. That stuff is flat.
24 miles high is the height Felix Baumgartner was at when he did the Red Bull space jump. At 24 miles, they have to fake the curvature in order to give you guys something to marvel at. This footage you're looking at right here is an amateur high altitude balloon, 24 miles high, okay? That's 4 times the height of a commercial aircraft. You don't see any curve, and yet we have people that claim they've seen the curve and they've never been higher than a commercial aircraft.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again. But going to Mars should...
Happy Thanksgiving!
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, Thieves.
Hey, what's going on, Joe?
I need a good lie.
Oh, okay. How about the whole man walking on the moon thing, you know?
Wow, Neil Armstrong. Hey, wait a minute. You're supposed to be on the moon. I just saw it on TV.
Oh, there's a tape delay and with all solar winds.
Almost. I still got a little sand in my shorts.
Mr. James, I'm sorry. I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm not going to be able to keep quiet about this.
Oh, well, at least it's not such a big deal.
Yes, it is.
Hey, it's not like I was faking the Apollo moon landing or anything. Now that was a big deal.
What?
Nothing, I got it.
What? Hey.
The entire Cuban Missile Crisis was staged by Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
Due to a navigational error, Neil Armstrong actually landed in Wilmington, Delaware.
Dawn, greetings, young one. What would you like for consumables? Pop-Tarts, chicken embryos, seasoned patties of ground animal flesh?
I'm not really hungry. Just some Tang.
Ah, Tang, the drink the astronauts took to the moon. Astronauts to the moon.
What is it this time, Councillor Nabish?
Well, I don't want to make waves, but we have got to do something about these caterers. We faked the moon landings, for Christ's sake. Is it too much to expect a decent prune Danish with my double decaf macchiato? I mean, hello.
Goodbye.
So the government would park a car right outside my house? Foreman, anything you think the government's not doing, they are doing. The only thing they didn't do is land the man on the moon. No. Spielberg shot the entire thing in a Hollywood movie set. That's why we got the job.
Let's go to the beach and go surfing. Wait a minute, I forgot. We're not in Hawaii. We're where NASA faked the moon landing.
The President's Secret Book? The President's Secret Book. It happens to be a collection of documents for presidents, by presidents, and for presidents' eyes only. And I'm not just talking about JFK here, guys. The 18 and a half missing minutes of the Watergate tapes. Did the Apollo really land on the moon? Did it? Did it?
Really did stage the moon landing. On Venus. Aroo!
It's an old federal textbook. We've replaced them with the corrected versions.
Corrected.
Explaining how the Apollo missions were fake to bankrupt the Soviet Union.
You don't believe we went to the moon?
I believe it was a brilliant piece of propaganda that the Soviets bankrupted themselves, pouring resources into rockets and...
Also, in another scene, we have that floor again from The Shining. And something I find interesting is that the company that makes these movies is called Illumination, and never fails to show their one-eyed minion in the intros. Drop the O.
Mars Project. I think I found out where Mars is, guys.
At some point in the future, we're going to look back and say, how did we do it without space?
The kinds of technologies that we're testing out on Space Station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit.
Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belt, an area of dangerous radiation.
To achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind.
Usually in science, if we're off by a factor of 2 or a factor of 10, we call that horrible. We say something's wrong with the theory. We're off by a factor of 10. However, in cosmology, we're off by a factor of 10 to the 120. That is 1 with 120 zeros after it. This is the largest mismatch between theory and experiment in the history of science.
You get a real sense of speed as we track the external tank over the Pyrenees here, going a little better than 5 miles a second over the ground.
Get onto orbit, and the first thing we have to do is to open up the payload bay doors so that we can start cooling all of the electronics inside the orbiter. The doors are actually opening at a faster speed here, they're shown at a faster speed than what we actually open them at. It also gave us our first really nice view of Unity in the back of the payload bay.
Hey everybody, it's Sean Hilbler from Hill Productions. I was watching the ISS quote-unquote live, and check this out. Pay attention, right in this area. Whoop. I mean, for the love of God. If you guys still think this shit's real, just unfollow me.
All my ladies, pop your backs with it. With it, drop with it, lean with it, rock with it, snap with it. All my ladies, pop your backs with it. With it, drop with it, lean with it, rock.
Okay, today I'm going to be putting a drone in my vacuum chamber and showing you the difference between propeller-based flight and rocket-based flight. And then after the drone, I'm going to be putting a balloon in the vacuum chamber that will act as my rocket to show how rocket flight is different than propeller-based flight. So this is my drone I bought on Amazon. Whew. So how a drone flies, obviously, is that those propellers spin, it creates lower pressure on top, higher on the bottom, and it pushes the drone up. But a key feature of that is that you actually need air to make that happen. So let's see what would happen if we take all the air out of the chamber. Do you think the drone would still be able to fly? Let's check. Okay, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn on the vacuum pump, and then I'm going to fly it as I pump out the air, and let's see if it goes down as the air is getting pumped out. Okay, drone in a vacuum chamber. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm just gonna let it hover there. About negative 0.5 atmospheres. I'm having to throttle up more and more and more. Negative 0.8 atmospheres. Look, it's full throttle. It can't even get off the ground now. I can't do anything. Okay, so you can see the propeller spin. It's essentially just vibrating on the ground right now. And what's cool is look how long those blades spin after I turn it off. Turn it off. just barely stopped because there's no air resistance. Okay, now I'm going to slowly increase the pressure and see if we can get it to fly. So I'm going to have it on full throttle. Full throttle, I'm going to let in some air. Oh, there it goes.
It was all recorded on these telemetry tapes. So where is this hard evidence?
I haven't seen anything that indicates the telemetry data is even in existence, and as I said, even if we had it, we don't have the machines to play it back.
But your own research has shown the telemetry data is missing.
That's right.
Could this be true? Mankind's first interplanetary exploration and the original science data is missing?
Apollo 11, this is Houston, radio check, over.
If it's anywhere, it should be here at NASA's Goddard Space Center in Maryland, home to the National Space Science Data Archives.
This film you're making now, what is it?
This is a film trying to prove that Apollo 11 happened.
Does it have a name? I mean, do you have a name for it yet, or
I'm calling it Did We Go?
Did we go? Okay. Okay.
Doesn't have it either. The Smithsonian doesn't have it. Johnson doesn't have it.
Right. We've been unable to track it down. I mean, we don't know where this telemetry data ended up, and we don't know what path it may have taken. So, unfortunately, I'm afraid I can't really give you much of a clue as to where this data ended up and whether it still exists or not.
Most likely, these scientists just misplaced these tapes. Or did they? In 1969, the astronauts conducted 3 alleged science experiments on the moon, one of which is still in operation today. It is the Lunar Laser Reflector, which allows a giant laser on Earth to be pointed at the Apollo 11 landing site. Then, it bounces back to the same place it came from, on Earth. I traveled to the University of Maryland to meet the principal investigator, Professor Carol Alley.
Okay, we're here at the office of Professor Carol Alley.
Is this Raymond?
Yes, how are you?
Oh,
nice to meet you in
You're
person.
feeding the camera to your eye. Here is the Earth, and here is the Moon.
Yeah, you know, actually on my very first mission, we went up and when you're in space and you're looking into deep space and you're on the sun side of the orbit, the sunlight washes out all the starlight, so you can't see any stars, just like here on Earth. But then when you look out into deep space away from the sun, it's the darkest black you can imagine. Right? And so what happens is you really lose your perception. You can't tell if something's close by or far away.
Whilst
from
in
Mark
space,
Cameron. This is from Mark Cameron.
Whilst in space, have you ever looked away from Earth into the black void?
Yeah. So because you can see, because you can see the stars.
Oh yeah.
You know, and pretty much all the time you can see the stars.
And I had just a few things I wanted to share from this very unique vantage point. In the view outside from our cupola module, which has windows on all sides and allows us to see marvelous places, you know, coming and going, and also just gives us that perspective of looking down on the Earth and realizing that we are in an orbiting spaceship, and that when I look out at the stars and I see, you know, so many stars and planets and Hello, and welcome to the International Space Station. I'm Katie Coleman, a NASA astronaut, MIT graduate from 1983, and this is my world, at least for the past few months and another month. Really happy to be here with you today and to share this place with you. I'm very privileged to live aboard the International Space Station and commute to work here every day. And I love pretty much every single minute of it.
Well, when we look out the window, Emerson, the thing that we see and notice the most is planet Earth. Some of our best windows face the Earth, and it's very blue and very beautiful. So it's what we look at the most from the window. But we can also see stars if we're on the dark side of Earth and planets.
The sky is a deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the Earth and the moon. The Earth is the only visible object other than the sun that can be seen.
Since the moon has no atmosphere, then a daytime picture, if you're there in the daytime of the moon, you see a full night sky of stars, even with the sun in the sky as well.
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics.
The thing about Carl Sagan, billions and billions of, there really are billions and billions of stars, and you can see them. In fact, they're so numerous, it's very difficult to pick out the constellations you and I see here on the ground. And I live in Colorado, and you get up on a clear night in Colorado up in the mountains where there's no light, and you can see all these stars. Well, multiply that by 1,000. That's what it's like in space. And then when you're outside doing a spacewalk, and you have that one or two opportunities where you can let your eyes adjust, you can start to notice that some of the stars have colors we don't see here on the ground.
The biggest visual surprise was just how black the sky was. You have a brilliant sun, brighter than any sun you normally would see, even here in New Mexico. You have these extraordinarily high mountains. We were in a valley deeper than the Grand Canyon. But then you have this black sky, a sky blacker than black, as the old Vidicon expression used to be.
Just the inherent beauty of it, the velvet, bottomless bucket of the universe.
In like just hanging there in a vast sea of darkness, and the most frightening darkness that you could ever imagine.
This is just CGI. Go to Hollywood, watch any Star Trek or whatever movie, and they have the same effects. But these are by some space agencies like ESA, and you believe it, because it's your government supporting this, and they are only acting in your best interest, Right.
The sky is almost white with the light of the universe, with the uncountable number of stars.
It's an unfathomable blackness, like with a texture you feel like you could stick your hand into.
I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar corona what stars we could see. I don't remember seeing any.
Uncountable number of stars.
I don't remember seeing any.
You know, there are a lot of lights out there. There are a lot of stars, and they're all fixed relative to each other. There are a lot of stars. The sky, of course, was black. There are a lot of stars.
And we could not see stars.
I've often tried to explain the difference between darkness, when you turn out the lights and it's dark in here, or blackness. Blackness is the endlessness of it all.
You know, there are a lot of lights out there. There are a lot of stars, and they're all fixed relative to each other. There are a lot of stars.
When you're no longer Earthlings, how do you navigate? You can use the stars.
The sky is almost white.
from 3 different countries dropping items in zero gravity, so-called zero gravity, aboard the ISS. So, again, this is so very important to understand. It's not just NASA, the U.S. that's pulling this deception off. It's all these world so-called space organizations. And let's get right to it with this Dutch astronaut, Andre Kuipers. Let's take a listen to what he says here.
We have tape everywhere to fix things. We have this kind of Velcro straps, so you can fix it around cables. And so you need all these things to keep your stuff in place, because otherwise you lose it. It just floats away and it doesn't fall down.
And it doesn't fall down, and that's very key and very important. Let's get right to it with Andre Kuipers during this tour aboard the so-called ISS.
Hier achter deze panelen wordt de cylindre opgevangen.
I'm going to stop right there, and what he's pulling on is not an actual screw, it's a ring that's attached to this panel. And let's take a look at what happens here, and take a very close listen to it drop. There he goes. Now he's going down, looking down for it. And very important, again, you see the rings. Here's a ring, and there's no ring here because it dropped. So again, getting back to what he said earlier,
you lose it. It just floats away and it doesn't fall down.
Aboard the ISS. Actually, there he goes. Turns around again. Now here's super slow, and you're going to see actually this right hand kind of hit it, and it falls. And you see that so many times with the astronauts. They love to throw a microphone around in so-called outer space. Why not just be wireless? What are we back, in the 70s or 80s still using these microphones? This is just a prop, and they're trying to show off their zero-G and so-called ISS. But again, nothing but smoke and mirrors, nonsense, garbage from these frauds, these liars. Now watch this. As this one so-called astronaut is holding this inflatable globe. Let's play this clip and take a look at what happens. And he drops it. And look at the expressions from all the other so-called astronauts. And look at this face here, the one in the middle, the ringleader of this circus. Uh-oh, back up. Completely embarrassing. Let's take a closer look. There he goes. And look at her face here as it drops. Oops, oops.
Lighter-than-air vehicles, high-altitude airships, and high-altitude platforms are often misperceived as satellites by the public. So at nighttime, when you see one of those moving dots in the sky and believe it to be a satellite, it's actually one of these illuminated balloons. The skies are riddled with these communications technologies, but we are made to believe that they exist beyond our atmosphere. If we are to believe NASA's stories, then here's a question. How do satellites survive the 4,000 degree Fahrenheit temperature in space? There are only 7 elements on the periodic table that could withstand this heat, and none of them have been used for satellites. Satellites allegedly reside in the thermosphere, where temperatures can soar 4,000 degrees and more. This is simply not possible. These technologies are in flight underneath our dome. Including the technologies I just named, there are at least 18 platforms that can be used independently, in tandem, or in groups to provide all of the services that satellites supposedly provide. With new eyes, it becomes clear. No actual photos, no actual video footage, just CGI and photoshopped images. On the gravestone of Wernher von Braun, one of NASA's early rocket developers, there is a reference to a Bible verse that talks about our dome, our firmament. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament sheath his handiwork.
They taught us that there is a universe, with billions of planets, space missions, landings on the moon, over 1,000 artificial satellites orbiting the Earth, asteroids that frequently, as it is, make a circular arc shortly after takeoff so as not and cables. Everything is consciously realized and propagated in the media of education, literature, pseudoscience, movies, to make.
If you're just tuning in with us, you're looking at a breathtaking
After this, there is
live
no
view
turning
of the Earth from the Orion
take the blue
spacecraft
pill.
as it makes
The
its
story
journey
ends.
to the moon.
You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Can be seen there in the center of your screen, that rectangular shaped object. Orion is now over 58,000 miles away from Earth.
Film.
Hey, look at there.
Only prove beyond all reasonable doubt.
Did you see that?
None of the official NASA images of lunar exploration are fake.
They chucked that thing out of a plane, dude, and said it came back from outer space. Look.
In this film, we shall not only prove beyond all reasonable doubt that many of
They're
the
fucking
official NASA
busted.
images of lunar exploration are fake, but we shall.
You serious?
Earth, throughout its life, even when it formed, it was spinning, and it got a little wider at the equator than it does at the poles. So it's not actually a sphere, it's oblate, and officially it's an oblate spheroid. That's what we call it. But not only that, it's slightly wider below the equator than above the equator.
A little chubbier.
A little chubbier.
Yeah.
Chubby's a good way. It's like pear-shaped. 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 Pear-shaped.
In 1986, the shuttle Challenger exploded about 74 seconds after takeoff, killing all 7 astronauts inside. Or did it? It turns out that 6 of the 7 are still alive and kicking today. Ellison Onizuka claims to be his identical twin brother, Claude. Yeah, I've got an identical twin brother, Claude, too. The Challenger pilot, Mickey Smith, hasn't even bothered changing his name. He's now Professor Michael J. Smith of University of Wisconsin. Now, Krista McAuliffe was a bit of a sneaky one. She was the Challenger payload specialist, quite famous for being a teacher. It turns out during her astronaut days she was using her middle name, Krista, and now she goes by her first name, Sharon, and she's a Syracuse Law Professor. Commander Francis Richard Scobie is now Dick Scobie, which sounds like a rather unpleasant disease, CEO of Cows in Trees Limited. Judith Resnick, the Challenger mission specialist, again hasn't even bothered changing her name. She's a professor at Yale Law. And finally, Ronald
did this with no budget. Look, this is the space station, right? We're looking down at the Earth. You can tell it's a space station because there's always a solar panel in the way. But this isn't really the space station. This is filmed in somebody's front yard where we just turn the camera upside down, right? We did that with zero budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. You are so much better of an astronaut, Paige, than those other fakes.
Thank you. And if you're hungry in space, gotta have your floating Fritos to munch on. So I don't want to give GMOs any publicity, but it's all we had hanging around.
Yum.
Yum, yum, yum.
So it's all true.
It's amazing, the zero gravity.
So, push it that way. Unbelievable.
So how does Hollywood brainwash you? Well, one way is like this. They begin their movies on a globe and then they zoom in to whatever the first scene is. Real clever way to brainwash you in the very first scene of any movie you see. Universal Studios is so bad they use this globe as their logo, as their intro to every single movie that they make. At the beginning of every single movie Universal makes, you're gonna see the spinning globe logo.
Four, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Kilometers.
Separated.
The strap-ons have separated, which will burn till 1 minute 50 seconds.
इस क्रम में अगड़ा PS1 स्टेज को पृथक किया जाएगा तथा PS2 स्टेज का प्रज्वलन.
Stage separated. Second stage engine started.
The ignition of the second stage has been confirmed.
Second stage performance normal.
द्वितीय चरण का प्रज्वलन.
Hi there. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about lies. It's up to 4,500. I doubt that who keep calling me a liar.
One purpose. What's happening out there? This is ODD TV. We're gonna look at vectors and chevrons, but I'm gonna start this by sharing a clip from another video that I made called Cigarettes and the Occult. It's the reason why I'm making this video in the first place. And Newports, they have this weird shape for their logo. It looks like an upside down Nike sign. People say it looks like a ring on Saturn kind of symbolism, like a swoosh around Saturn. I think it kind of looks like a spaceship kind of thing, you know, like one of these. And it's funny because RJ Reynolds has a boomerang looking thing in their logo. Let's look at the Newport logo again. And you see how there's emphasis on the older logo with the shadow underneath it. It looks like it's floating or hovering above it. And we got these Ace cigarettes. Air documentary.
Then you can ask the Japanese, the South Koreans, Taiwanese, Malaysia, Mexico, Iran, all of these countries, even Bulgaria. They all utilize the vector symbology in their space agency logos for their national space agencies. It gets even deeper. You can go look at the individual manned program patches for NASA. The Mercury program, for example, a blatant use of covert symbology. In every logo dealing with the Mercury program, you'll see what looks like a number 7 in their logo. And again, NASA's official story is that if you look at the Apollo logo, the official logo is the vector symbol.
It goes from the United Nations to the United Earth in 2150 and finally to the United Federation of Planets in 2161. You guys know the quote, "Life imitates art." That were 19 commercials.
To her head, it should flop all over the place.
On a couple $100,000, and they basically have it's like Stonehenge, like, and there's I'm going to tell you a crazy story, okay? But this is what they teach us in school, and this is what people believe. If you believe you live on a planet, you believe that you live on a planet spinning faster than the speed of sound, 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. So when you're watching the sunset, the sun's not going down, you're falling over backwards faster than the speed of sound. While that's going on, you're orbiting the sun at 66,600 miles an hour. And somehow all of the other planets are doing the same, and they're all staying on the same plane. Like if this was the sun here, they're all going around on the same plane, right? They all stay level with each other. Somehow none of them fade back, none of them go forward. They all, like you're in like the sun is in a race, and everyone catches up to the sun, but they're not going to go past it. They just run around the sun, okay? Right, 66,600 miles an hour, and then the sun is traveling at over 500,000 miles per hour, and that entire thing is moving sideways at 1.2 or 5 million miles per hour, or whatever it is, somewhere over 1 million miles per hour. As we go out in the world every day, we observe it stationary, still, perfectly. You know, like you go out tonight and watch the stars. Go out a year from now, same night, same time, the stars are in the exact same position. How is that possible? When we're traveling billions and billions and billions of miles in 4 different directions, how do all the stars reset into the same exact place? Okay? Think about that for a second. So the Georgia Guidestones are in Georgia, state of Georgia in the USA here, and they showed up in, I think, 1981, a couple $100,000, and they basically have it's like Stonehenge, and there's 10 commandments in like 12 different languages or something like that. And one of them, besides they're basically the marching orders for the New World Order. Okay, one of them is don't let the population rise over 500 million again, the world population. Okay, but besides that, there's this little hole in one of them, right? And that little hole, if you look through it, you see Polaris, the North Star. Okay, right? Do a little time lapse, all the stars circle around.
Right.
Remember that diagram I showed you, whirling, twirling, and swirling, corkscrewing through space? Mm-hmm. How do you keep a star focused through that little thin hole?
Yeah, yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's insanity.
I'm tilting and barbening. So, thank you, boss.